This video explores the poem Preludes, a brief stanza-wise analysis of the first two sections, the theme, style, and structure, summary and background of the poet and the poem itself. Let's read the poem first. Preludes by TS Eliot. The winter evening settles down with smell of steaks in passageways, 6 o'clock, the burnt-out ends of smoky days, and now a gusty shower wraps the grimy scraps of withered leaves about your feet and newspapers from vacant lots. The showers beat on broken blinds and chimney pots, and at the corner of the street a lonely cab horse steams and stamps. And then the lighting of the lamps. The morning comes to consciousness of faint stale smells of beer from the sawdust-trampled street, with all its muddy feet that press to early coffee stands. With the other masquerades that time resumes, one thinks of all the hands that are raising dingy shades in 1,000 furnished rooms. You tossed a blanket from the bed, you lay upon your back and waited. You dozed and watched the night revealing the 1,000 sordid images of which your soul was constituted. They flickered against the ceiling, and when all the world came back and the light crept up between the shutters, and you heard the sparrows in the gutters, you had such a vision of the street as the street hardly understands, sitting along the bed's edge where you curled the papers from your hair or clasped the yellow soles of feet in the palms of both soiled hands. His soul stretched tight across the skies that fade behind a city block or trampled by insistent feet. At 4 and 5 and 6 o'clock, and short square fingers stuffing pipes, and evening newspapers, and eyes assured of certain certainties, the conscience of a blackened street, impatient to assume the world. I am moved by fancies that are curled around these images and cling, the notion of some infinitely gentle, infinitely suffering thing. Wipe your hand across your mouth and laugh. The worlds revolve like ancient women gathering fuel in vacant lots. The first section of T.S. Eliot's Preludes paints a vivid picture of urban life at dusk. The opening line, "The winter evening settles down," sets a somber and quiet tone, suggesting the end of the day and the onset of cold, desolate winter. The phrase, "with smell of steaks in passageways," introduces a sensory detail that brings the scene to life, hinting at the urban setting where such smells might linger in narrow alleys. 6 o'clock marks a specific time, emphasizing the routine and monotony of city life. This moment signifies the transition from day to evening, a part of the daily grind. The burnt-out ends of smoky days uses a metaphor to convey exhaustion and the remnants of a tiring day, highlighting the weariness of urban existence. The lines, "and now a gusty shower wraps," the grimy scraps of withered leaves about your feet, depict a dirty, neglected environment. The gusty shower and grimy scraps create a vivid image of decay and neglect, with the withered leaves symbolizing deterioration. And newspapers from vacant lots further emphasizes urban decay and abandonment, with scattered newspapers highlighting desolation. The showers beat on broken blinds and chimney pots adds to the imagery of a dilapidated cityscape, where even the structures show signs of neglect. And at the corner of the street, a lonely cab horse steams and stamps, introduces a sense of isolation and weariness, with the cab horse representing the tiredness of the city's inhabitants. Finally, "and then the lighting of the lamps" signifies the end of the day and the beginning of night, marking a moment of transition in the urban landscape. As the morning awakens, it brings with it a consciousness of the faint, stale smells of beer lingering in the air. These remnants of the previous night's activities hint at a sense of decay and stagnation, painting a picture of a city that never truly rests. The streets, covered in sawdust and trampled by countless feet, bear the marks of a busy, worn-down urban environment. The muddy feet pressing on the street further emphasize the grime and wear of the city, as people make their way to the early coffee stands, highlighting the monotonous routine of daily life. In this urban landscape, life is likened to a masquerade, where individuals hide their true selves behind masks. Time resumes its relentless march, emphasizing the cyclical nature of existence. One can't help but think of all the hands raising dingy shades in 1,000 furnished rooms, each action a small part of the larger, repetitive dance of city life. The shades, described as dingy, reinforce the theme of decay and neglect, while the vast number of rooms suggests the widespread nature of this monotonous existence. The main theme of the first two sections of T.S. Eliot's Preludes is the bleakness and monotony of urban life. Eliot uses imagery of decay, routine, and isolation to depict a city that is physically and spiritually exhausted. The poem highlights the repetitive nature of daily existence and the sense of disconnection among its inhabitants. T.S. Eliot's Preludes is composed of 4 distinct sections, each varying in length and form. The poem does not adhere to a consistent rhyme scheme or meter, reflecting the fragmented and chaotic nature of modern urban life. The first section consists of 13 lines, the second of 10 lines, the third of 15 lines, and the fourth of 16 lines. This irregular structure mirrors the disjointed and often monotonous experiences of city dwellers. The use of free verse allows Eliot to capture the stream of consciousness and the flow of thoughts and observations without the constraints of traditional poetic forms. This structural choice enhances the poem's depiction of the fragmented and transient nature of modern existence. Eliot's style in Preludes is characterized by vivid imagery, sensory details, and a focus on the mundane aspects of daily life. He employs a modernist approach, using fragmented imagery and a non-linear narrative to convey the disillusionment and alienation of individuals within the urban landscape. The language is often stark and unembellished, reflecting the bleakness of the scenes described. Eliot's use of metaphors and personification adds depth to the imagery, while his attention to sensory details such as smells and sounds creates a rich, immersive experience for the reader. The poem's style effectively captures the essence of modernity and the existential crisis it engenders, making Preludes a poignant reflection on the human condition in the early 20th century. Thomas Stearns Eliot, better known as T.S. Eliot, was born on September 26, 1888, in St. Louis, Missouri, USA. He was a distinguished poet, essayist, publisher, playwright, and literary critic, and is regarded as one of the most influential figures in modernist literature. Eliot's works often delve into themes of disillusionment, fragmentation, and the quest for meaning in a rapidly evolving world. In 1914, he moved to England and later became a British citizen in 1927. Some of his major works include The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, The Wasteland, 4 Quartets, and Murder in the Cathedral. In recognition of his significant contributions to poetry, Eliot was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1948. Preludes is a poem written by T.S. Eliot between 1908 and 1912 during his early 20s. It was later included in his debut collection, Prufrock and Other Observations, published in 1917. The poem is divided into 4 sections, each portraying different facets of urban life. Preludes is noted for its vivid imagery, fragmented structure, and exploration of themes such as urban decay, monotony, and spiritual desolation. Reflecting Eliot's modernist style, the poem emphasizes the disillusionment and alienation experienced by individuals within the urban landscape. Through its stark imagery and fragmented form, Preludes captures the essence of modernity and the existential crisis it brings. The unnamed city in the poem is depicted as a grimy, dingy place where people mindlessly engage in monotonous daily routines, highlighting the drudgery and isolation of modern urban life. The poem opens with the speaker depicting a city as night falls. He meticulously notes the scent of steak in the air and the grime covering the ground. Newspapers and various pieces of trash swirl around the feet of passers-by. The first section concludes with the illumination of indoor lamps. In the second section, morning arrives, and the city awakens. The air is now tinged with the smell of beer, and residents reluctantly raise their dirty blinds, disheartened by the prospect of another day identical to the last.